This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Sefer Daniel, Part 6. We discussed last week, we talked about Nebuchadnezzar, Melech Bavel, and his dream, and how he was so angry at the fact that all of his advisors were not able to help him with the interpretation of the dream, and they told him it's unable to be interpreted. He said that all the wise men of Bavel should be killed. Now, if you think about it, it seems like he's just angry and upset. But the Midrash says there's something that goes on much deeper than what's on the surface. It says that Nebuchadnezzar was angry at all of his advisors because he did not want to destroy Beit HaMikdash. He said, why should I destroy such a beautiful temple where the Jews pray? Why should I destroy it? And they said, no, you have to destroy it, you have to destroy it. He listened to them. Then they tell him, the only people that are able to help you is the Jewish people when there's Beit HaMikdash. He said, well, who gave me the advice to destroy Beit HaMikdash? You gave me that advice. Therefore, he wanted to kill all of them. It's because he said, I didn't want to destroy it. If it would have been around, if Beit HaMikdash would have been built, I would have had an interpretation for my dream. And now you destroyed it, I'm going to destroy all of you. So we mentioned last week that Daniel, he wanted to come and save the day. He told Arioch that I will go ahead and interpret the dreams. And we know he prayed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, him, together with Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, and Gabriel the angel was sent by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to reveal the dream to Daniel. And Daniel finally had the interpretation, the dream and the interpretation, and he is ready to come before Nebuchadnezzar. And we spoke that when Daniel came to Nebuchadnezzar, he interpreted the dream, but first he explained to Nebuchadnezzar what the dream even was, because remember, Nebuchadnezzar didn't know the dream. And he told him that there is an image that Nebuchadnezzar is looking at. And this image has a head of gold that was illuminating, it was brilliant gold. And the body of the image was silver. And the legs and the stomach of the body was made out of copper. And the bottom was made out of the legs, meaning the bottom half of the legs was made out of metal, strong iron metal, which is very, very tough. And the toes of the tselem, of this image, was made both of iron and of earthenware, clay. And it was like kind of held together with the clay, but it was iron, mixed in together with the clay. Comes along this stone that emerges from a bigger boulder that nobody touches, no individual set it into motion, and it starts rolling towards the image. And Nebuchadnezzar sees all of this happening in his dream. All of a sudden it lands hard on the toes of this statue, disintegrates like dust, all of the legs, and the whole statue comes crumbling down together with it until it's completely sand. And a wind blows it all away. The stone, which is the only thing left, starts expanding and growing, and Nebuchadnezzar sees this. All of a sudden, it grew to the length, it was so big it filled up the whole world. Nebuchadnezzar wakes up from the dream. This is the dream. And now Nebuchadnezzar asks Daniel for the interpretation of the dream. The Midrash tells us Daniel started the interpretation with the words, Ant Malka Melech Malchaya. You are the king of all kings. And he's talking to Nebuchadnezzar. The Midrash says, this is the only time that Daniel refers to king, and he doesn't mean Nebuchadnezzar. He means Melech Malchei Melachim. We know every time that tzaddikim, they speak before people that are considered to be important, like a president, like a king, like other people, they always direct their words to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How do we know? It says a few weeks ago, it was Parashat Vayishlach. And does anybody know what Parashat Vayishlach begins with? Do you know?
When Yosef was in front of Paro?
No. Parashat Vayishlach is before that. It's when Yaakov Avinu is going to confront Esav. And he sends a message to Esav. He says, Im Lavan garti, I lived with Lavan. And Rashi says, what does it mean? Im Lavan garti. Says Rashi, V'taryag mitzvot shamarti. I kept all 613 mitzvot. How did Rashi get that from the words? Because garti, those 4 letters, garti are the same letters as taryag. And therefore Rashi understood that what Yaakov Avinu was saying was, I didn't just live with Esav, I kept the whole entire Torah. And it goes further, because Yaakov Avinu says, Vayhiri shor v'hamor. I had an ox, I had a donkey, son, cattle, sheep, ve'eved v'shivcha, and a servant and a maidservant. And the commentaries explain, what is he telling Esav? Shor, who is Shor? Yosef. I have Yosef. V'hamor, Yisachar. Yosef represents the power, the combat against Esav. Yisachar represents the battery behind it, the Torah. Tzon, who's Tzon? Who's the flock? Bnei Israel. That's us. That's Am Yisrael that Yaakov Avinu has. Eved, David HaMelech. King of all kings, David HaMelech. He's the head of the kings, the head of Mashiach. And who else? V'shivcha zo Avigail. I have a question. Esav. You talk to Esav. Esav is a military general. Esav is a goy of all goyim. What does he understand? What language does he speak? He speaks the language of might. You want to come to Esav and you want to threaten him. You say, I have an army, I have tanks, I have missiles. You might scare him. You come to Esav, who's Rasha, and you say, I have mitzvot, I have Torah. What does Esav know about mitzvot, and what does he know about Torah? What does he care? Second, Esav is going to know gematria. Esav is going to know when you say garti, you mean taryag, and when you say tzon, you mean Am Yisrael, and when you say eved, you mean David. Esav's going to understand all this. Who is Yaakov Avinu talking to? Answers the Be'er Yosef beautifully. He says, we find in the Megillat Esther. Esther goes along, and she's before Achashverosh and Haman. Remember the story of Esther. The Jews were in very big risk because there was a decree to eliminate every single Jew, men, women, children. Everyone was going to be eliminated on the 13th day of Adar. And the Jews knew the seriousness of the situation. Esther goes before Ahashverosh and Haman. And she says, there's somebody that's going to try to destroy our nation, my nation that I've never revealed to Ahashverosh, is going to be destroyed. Ki nimkarnu ani ve'ami le'ashmid la'arog u'la'abed, to be lost. So Ahashverosh gets very angry. Mihu zeh ve'ezehu. Who is this person that's coming to destroy your nation? And Esther Malka says, Ish tsar ve'oyev. Now she points her finger at Ahashverosh. She points at Ahashverosh. Ish tsar ve'oyev. But what happens is the angel Gabriel comes, slaps her hand, moves her hand to Haman. Self. Okay, Kadosh Baruch Hu saved us, because if she would have pointed to Achashverosh, Achashverosh said, "Me? How dare you?" And he might have, been very angry. Certainly wouldn't have changed the decree. So Gabriel, the angel, came and moved her hand. Luckily, but think about it. What was Esther doing? Didn't she realize that she has to protect all of Am Yisrael? Why did she point to Achashverosh? She should have pointed to Haman. What, she made a mistake? Why did she point to Achashverosh? And says the Gaon Mivina, because you have to understand when a tzaddik or a tzaddiket like Esther comes before a king, they don't speak to the king. A king is a human being. What do I have to speak to him? He's not in charge. Even though he's a king, he's not in charge. Who's in charge? Kadosh Baruch Hu is in charge. All the words of the tzaddikim are focused on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Esther Malka, she turns to God and she says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Melech, the true king, Melech. It doesn't say Melech Achashverosh. It says Melech. Who's Melech? That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nimkarnu, ani ve'ami, we were sold. Le'ashmid, la'arog u'labet. She's praying to God. She happens to be standing before Achashverosh, before Haman. But who's she turning her prayer to? She's turning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then when Achashverosh asks the question, Mi hu zeh, she hears it from the corner of her ear, from the, she's like from Shamayim, she hears it. Who is this one that's coming? So she turns to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, Achashverosh! She's pointing to him, because who was the one that made the decree? Who was the one that signed the decree? It was Achashverosh. He allowed Haman. He wanted Haman to do it. He just thought that it wouldn't look nice if it came from him. It wouldn't look nice. So he says, okay, Haman, you carry it out. So he said, Achashverosh really was the person behind. So Esther, she forgot for a second that she's praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but Achashverosh is standing there. And she points to Achashverosh because he was the one that made the decree. So Malach had to come move her hand. So really all of her tefillah was focused only in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Same thing is true with Esav. Yaakov Avinu, he's talking to Esav. He's sending a message to Esav. But who is he really talking to? Im Lavan garti, v'tariag mitzvot shamarti, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I kept the Torah, I kept the mitzvot, I have Shor, I have Hamor, I have Yosef, I have Yisachar. He's turning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's not looking at the Rasha. The Rasha doesn't matter. It's the tzaddik that matters. And this is why it says Yaakov Avinu bowed down 7 times. You think he was bowing down to Esav? No way. He was bowing down to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Esav was standing in the proximity, but he was bowing down to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yes, question? When you remember. So Daniel, he turns to Nebuchadnezzar. Yes, he's looking at Nebuchadnezzar. He's interpreting the dreams of Nebuchadnezzar. But he says, oh, who is the king? Ant Malka Melech Malchaya Ant. You, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, are the king of all kings. So Nebuchadnezzar, he's saying, look at Daniel, he thinks I'm the great king, he's so happy, he thinks that all of these blessings are for him. And he doesn't really understand that Daniel is not talking to him, he's talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
I thought Achashverosh, I was told that that Haman told Achashverosh about the plan. He was going to keep everyone as slaves, but not kill them. He put in kill instead of slave.
You're talking about the chidush of the Ohev Israel. Yes, there'll be Israel Me'apta says such a chidush. It's a beautiful chidush. But that's one opinion. The simple understanding is not like that. Simple understanding is like the Midrash says that Achashverosh was just as interested in killing the Jews as Haman was interested. That's a different opinion, what you're quoting, which is also a valid opinion. Okay, so now we get to the interpretation of the dream. The dream is interpreted as follows. Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel speaks about him, and he says Nebuchadnezzar was a very powerful king. He was a king that was the ruler not just of people. He was actually the ruler also of the animals. And what does it mean to be a ruler of animals? Do you know what that means? Ruler of animal means that if Nebuchadnezzar decreed that the horse will not move, the horse will not sigh, or the chicken won't be able to speak, every decree that he had would come true. Which means the animals had to follow the decrees of Nebuchadnezzar. Who gave him this power? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. God gave Nebuchadnezzar the power not just to control people, but also to control all the animals. The only other person that had such control was Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech had control of people of animals and even of the shadim, even of the demons. And the angels, they were subject to the will of Shlomo HaMelech. And Daniel turns to Nebuchadnezzar and says, you have a great empire. The empire of Bavel is powerful, it's strong, it's forceful, it's big. You represent the head of the gold. So Daniel tells him, oh, he's so excited. Nebuchadnezzar says, I'm the gold. I'm the head of the gold of this image. The gold head is me and my empire. He's so happy. All of a sudden, he's getting all of this. The leaders, the Sha'im, all they care about is people giving them honor. So Daniel gave him honor. He was so excited. But we have to ask a question. We know Nebuchadnezzar was an evil person. Look how he's willing to kill. Look how he's willing to destroy. He was murderous. He cruel. He see a person in Am Yisrael. Remember a few weeks ago he saw that he saw the ship of the Jews, that they were just walking. He said, how come they're just walking? Why don't they carry things? They don't need them to carry anything. No, get them to carry things. He started putting heavy things on their backs for no reason whatsoever. He started killing people without any reason. Nothing, just kills. That's who Nebuchadnezzar. Why would God make him so great and give him so much power like that of Shlomo HaMelech? Why did he have so much power? Him, his children, even his child later became king. So tell you, there's an amazing story brought down in the Gemara, Masechet Berachot and Masechet Sanhedrin. The Gemara says that there was a righteous king many years before Nebuchadnezzar's kingship. His name was Hizkiah. Hizkiah was king at the time. Look over here. Reuven. Hizkiah was king at the time where the prophet Yeshaya was prophesying. And there were times that were very difficult because there was Sisra, he was a leader, and he was going to destroy the Jewish people. Hizkiah got very, very sick. Even though he was righteous, tzaddik, got very sick. Yeshaya was commanded by God to come to Hizkiah and tell him that he's going to die from this sickness. And not only will he die in this world, but he won't have an afterlife. He won't have olam haba. Ki metata velo tihyeh. You're not going to live in the future world. Hizkiah was a righteous king, brought Torah to Am Yisrael, taught children, adults, brought everybody to the study houses of Torah. He made sure that there wasn't a person, a child, the age of everybody here, right, that didn't know the most complicated halachot. This Hizkiah, such a righteous king. Why would HaKadosh Baruch Hu punish him? Because he didn't want to bring children into the world. He didn't want to bring children into the world. Why? Because he was so holy, he was able to see into the future. He had Ruach HaKodesh. He knew that his children were going to be evil. If he brings them into the world, they're going to sin. He didn't want to do that. He said, I'd rather not have children than have children that are going to sin. So he didn't want to have children. And God said, that's not your calculation. You have to perform your mitzvah. And since you didn't perform this mitzvah, you're going to die. This is what Yeshaya tells him. Hizkiah realizes he made a mistake, and he didn't try to make excuses, but no. He said, you know what? You're right. I sinned. And he prayed to God from the bottom of his heart. He turned and he prayed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to save him and to save the Jewish people, because if he would die, also all the Jews of Yerushalayim would fall to the enemies. He prayed from the bottom of his heart. As Yeshaya was leaving, he was making it out the door. He receives a prophecy. Turn around, tell Hizkiah that I accepted his prayer. Look at that. In the course of a minute, he changed his whole life around because he prayed from the bottom of his heart. Now Yeshaya felt a little embarrassed. I just told him. Now he's going to think I'm lying to him. Maybe he's going to think I'm a false prophet. He says, no, God tells me to do it. I have to do it. Turns around, he says, God accepted your prayer. Hizkiah, he knew that sometimes, even when there's a prophecy that God accepted the prayer, it could change. He says, I want a sign. Because if there's a sign, then it's locked in. Then there's no way for it to change. So what is the sign? Many years earlier, Hizkiah's father was Rasha. His name was Achaz. Achaz was an evil king. And he died. Baruch Hashem, he died. And what did Hizkiah do? He died in the morning, very early in the morning. Hizkiah wanted to bury him in not a nice way, because he didn't want Rishaim, people that are evil, to go and leave this world with so much honor. He actually cared about his father. He wanted his father to have a good life in Olam Haba, in the future world. And his father had many sins. So to atone for all of those sins, Hizkiah said, you know what? I'm going to bury him very, very quickly. Now, did God agree with this or not? He did. Because you know what God did? The day had exactly 2 hours in it. Instead of 12 hours, God shortened the day. He passed away in the morning. So usually you have eulogies, you have people speak, this person was close to the king, that person, and all the people say about the king, all these amazing things that he accomplished. That day became so short, they literally had to take him, cleanse his body, and bury him right away. The day was only 2 hours. 10 hours, God made the sun just go like this, really fast. So the day ended quickly, they had to bury him before the night. And that way, Ahaz didn't get a very honorable burial. And that saved him in the Olam Haba. He has more merits because of the fact that his burial wasn't done in the most honorable way. But the 10 hours were missing from the world. Now there's only one day was only 2 hours. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Yeshaya, tell Hizkiah that I'm going to give him a sign. I'm going to restore the 10 hours of that day that was lost. I'm going to restore it. So that day that Hizkiah prayed wasn't 12 hours. How many hours was it? 22 hours. The day itself was 22 hours plus the night. It was a very long day. It was a 34-hour day. Right? So it was very long. And Hizkiah, he lives in Eretz Yisrael, right? He's in Yerushalayim. All the while this is happening, that means that instead of it, 7 o'clock, it's supposed to be 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. 7 o'clock stayed 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock. It didn't change until 10 hours. Finally, it started getting later. Now, it doesn't just change for Eretz Yisrael. The whole world had another 10 hours. Go about 1,000 miles to the east, and now we're in Bavel on that day. Who is the king? There's Melech Bal-Adan bin Bal-Adan. Some say Bin-Laden. Same thing. Bal-Adan. This king was the king that reigned in Bavel, which was becoming a very strong empire. And he usually would wake up 3 hours into the day. He would wake up in the afternoon. They would wake him up, he would sleep till very, very late. Like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he would finally wake up. And that day, the day was so long that it was morning. They're looking to wake him up. They're saying it's still morning. They finally wake him up at the time that he's usually woken up. And he looks outside. He says, hey! He thought he already slept the whole day and the whole night. He was going to kill everybody in the palace. Because they said, you woke me up late. It's already the next day. How come you let me sleep so long? They said, Honorable King, it's still the same day. We don't understand what's going on. What's happening over here, but it's the same day. And then he asks, he says, is it really true? He goes, he asks. They tell him, yeah, the day. He says, how come this happened? News came from Eretz Yisrael that all of this was due to this king. King Hizkiah caused the sun to stop. But Adan hears about this. Is there such a great king out there that could cause the sun to stop? Such a person? I have to send him a letter. So Adan tells the scribe to start writing to the honorable King Hizkiah, to the big, powerful city, Kalta di Yerushalayim, the city of Yerushalayim, and to the God of the Jews. That's how he writes. Nebuchadnezzar was a servant. At that time, he was in the palace. One of the advisors of the king. He says, how can you write a letter like this? Honorable God. God should come before. And then Yerushalayim. And then Hizkiah. Not first Hizkiah, then Yerushalayim, then God. He's the big God. He's the God of the Jews. He should be first. And then you should put the city. And then Hizkiah. Problem was, he made this point, the letter was already being sent out. It was already being delivered. So, Bal-Adan turns to Nebuchadnezzar and says, you're the one that caught the mistake, go correct it. Nebuchadnezzar takes 3 steps. 3 steps he takes in order to catch up to the person who was a messenger. He was going to take a 4th step. The Gemara says, what happened? The Malach Gabriel comes rushing down from Shamayim and stops him from taking a 4th step. It says if he would have taken a 4th step, oy vavoy would have been to Am Yisrael. The merit of those 3 steps, the merit of him going for the honor of God and continuing his journey to stop the letter, the original letter that was misworded and didn't give the proper respect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, those 3 steps, God said to him, not only are you going to become king, and are you going to have the ability to destroy Beit HaMikdash, and be a ruler over the entire world, and a ruler over the animals, but also your son and your grandson, all of them are going to rule because of the 3 steps. Imagine if it would have been a 4th step. You know who his 4th descendant was? You know who his 4th descendant was? Vashti. Vashti was the great-great-granddaughter of Nebuchadnezzar. And if she would have become the ruler, guess who wouldn't have been in the picture? Esther HaMalka. And if Esther would have been queen, Haman's decree would have been fulfilled. Gabriel had to come in and stop that 4th step so that Esther HaMalka should become the queen and not Vashti. So it says Nebuchadnezzar actually took 3.5 steps. He almost completed the 4th step because Vashti had half a rulership. She started ruling, but she lost halfway, and therefore Esther was able to become the ruler, and that's what allowed Am Yisrael to survive in the time of Haman. So look at the major merit. Just because Nebuchadnezzar went along and he did a little bit for the honor of God, God rewarded him so much reward for doing seemingly a small mitzvah. He got such power and strength. Yes, Yonatan.
If he took the 4th step, then wouldn't have Hashem stopped Vashti from ruling and
he would have had the merit to have Vashti rule. That's what the Gemara says.
Yeah, but wouldn't he have stopped Haman?
What would have happened in terms of it sounds like it would have been, the plan would have been carried out, but I don't know to what extent. Baruch Hashem, it didn't happen, because the Gemara says if it would have happened, it would have been very devastating. Just as a matter of fact, every time we pray, at the very end of the prayer of the Shmona Esrei, we say Sheibaneh Beit HaMikdash B'meira v'yameinu, and what do? We take 3 steps back, Oseh Shalom B'momav, and then we say Yehi Ratzon Shivneh Beit HaMikdash. Why do we take 3 steps? Because we say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we know that Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Beit HaMikdash because he took 3 steps forward. We want to counteract those 3 steps of Nebuchadnezzar, and we take 3 steps back to reverse the strength of Nebuchadnezzar and to allow the rebuilding of Beit HaMikdash, and that's what we pray when we take the 3 steps back, that the Beit HaMikdash should be rebuilt, and the 3 steps of Nebuchadnezzar should be counterbalanced in this world, and not just in Olam Haba. We come back to Daniel. Daniel turns to Nebuchadnezzar and says, now that I have explained the dream itself, let me explain to you the interpretation. First of all, we have 4 parts. Remember, the image consists of 4 different materials. The most precious of the material is gold. Gold is the highest, right? It's the most precious, it's the most important, it's rare, that's the most beloved. The silver is below the gold. And after that, the copper, and after that, the bronze, in terms of uniqueness and expensiveness. So too, says Daniel, there's going to be 4 great empires. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is revealing the future to you, Nebuchadnezzar, so that you know about the future events that will transpire. Each kingdom will be stronger, greater, and then a lesser kingdom will come and conquer it. A kingdom that is not as powerful, is not as great, is not as elevated, will destroy the more prestigious kingship. And that is the symbolism of the 4 different materials. He explains further. He says that the toes, right? The toes was the material that was very strange because it was both iron and it was also clay. This represented 2 different interpretations to what this represented. One opinion holds this is the 5th empire that is embedded within the 4th empire. There's an empire within an empire. And that's the iron together with the clay. And one empire will be very strong, while the other will be weaker, much weaker, but it will be contained within the first empire. Second explanation says that the empire itself will disintegrate based on the material that's holding it together. It will be a strong empire, but it will have weak joints that will disintegrate and fall apart as it progresses and time goes on. So that's the Nivu'ah, but the explanation in detail, we already said, the gold is Nebuchadnezzar and Bavel. The kingdom of Bavel was the head, because Nebuchadnezzar was the most powerful king. He ruled over everything. He was called the head of the gold. What was the silver? The kingship of Paras Umadai. Both the kingship of Nebuchadnezzar was 52 years. The kingship of Paras Umadai was 52 years. Let me just tell you one thing about Koresh. Koresh was the king. Now, in truth, it says that Koresh, how was he born? There was the princess, the queen, the daughter of the queen, princess, was an only child to the king that was before Koresh. She was by herself, and she would have naturally been the next ruler, meaning whoever she marries is going to rule. The king was very careful so that she doesn't marry any person off the street. But she fell in love with one of the ministers, and she got married to him in secret. King found out about it. He was very angry, very upset, because he didn't approve of the marriage. What did he do? He locked up this minister. He locked up the daughter. It was too late though. She already was pregnant and she had a child. He said, no. This child isn't going to become king. He told all of his advisors, take this child, throw him into the woods. Get rid of him. To kill the child, that's not so nice. It's a king's child. Let him die on his own. Throw him into the woods. On his own, a baby, he's going to survive. Says that the child, he was in the woods as a little baby, comes along a female dog. Female dog comes and feeds the child. Feeds, like nurses the child. And he grows up, miraculously. Becomes strong enough and he starts understanding how the woods work. He becomes powerful. He realizes how to train animals, how to deal with animals. He starts getting people to join with him. He raises a whole army. The king hears about all these things that are going on. Every time he would send people to kill him. He would send people, and they were never able to kill him because he already commanded an army. He was already powerful. Eventually he felt strong enough. He came with his army and conquered the entire empire. He was called Koresh. Koresh in the Persian language means a dog. Because he was raised, the dog really made him survive. So therefore he was referred to as Koresh, the powerful king. And the beginning of the reign of the Persian Empire, Paras Umadai, which itself lasted 52 years, which is the story of Mordechai ve'Esther. That is represented by the silver. The bronze represents a kingship of Yavan, the Greeks. Greeks lasted much longer, 120 years, and they were beautiful. Like bronze is very beautiful. They weren't as strong, they weren't as powerful, but they had a certain element of beauty to them that nobody else had. After Yavan came Edom, the Roman Empire. Roman Empire is like the legs. It's iron, strong, they were powerful. The armies of Rome were legendary. Nobody withstood the armies of the Roman Empire. And just like legs are long, right? Legs are the long part of the person. So too will the Roman Empire continue for a very long time. The 120 years of the Greeks was nothing compared to the length of the strong Roman Empire. And the branch of Roman Empire is America. America is an offshoot together with the entire Western civilization in its entirety. So it's not just America, it's Europe as well. That whole civilization is the empire of Edom. And we see the power and the might, for example, of the American army, so powerful. No nation wants to start up with the armies of the Americans because they have ships, they have F-16s, they have planes all over the entire world. And every nation is afraid. What is America going to say if we do this and the Americans are going to attack? This is all a branch of the Roman Empire. Malchut Edom will have a sort of mini branch to it that is not as strong, not as powerful, not as culturally literate as the Roman Empire, and that is the fifth sub-branch of the fourth, which is called Galut Yishmael. Yishmael, which is the Arab Empire, the eastern strength, is excuse me, no talking. Shh. Turn this way, and look. The Galut Yishmael will be embedded into Galut Edom, and there will be conflict between Edom and Yishmael. And Edom will always have the upper hand versus Yishmael, and it's unbelievable because we see in our very day age, all of this time we see that the empire of Yishmael exists. The Arab nations are very powerful, but they've nothing compared to the power of the Roman Empire, of the American army, of the Western civilization, and the strength contained therein. As the last part of the prophecy, we saw that the bronze, although itself is very powerful, very strong, it will be held together with joints of earthenware, which means that eventually the kingship of Edom will dissolve out of the seams in the fabric that is holding it together. And that is also something we see in the culture today, how it's breaking from the seams itself. You see that the culture begins to disintegrate. Well, this represents 4 kingdoms that will exist, which is the Tzerim. Now, what about the stone that emerges and rolls in the direction? That stone is a final malchut, is a final kingship. And this is the kingship of Melech Malchei HaMelachim, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The kingship of HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be represented by Am Yisrael, us. And it will not be won, it will not succeed through the efforts of human man-made strength or power of war. It will succeed through the natural kochot of purity, of spirituality. It will simply emerge just like the stone will roll, and it will destroy all of the kingships that existed before it into ash, as if they did not exist. And just like a stone, Am Yisrael is very similar to a stone, because we're simple. We don't get complicated, we don't stand out, we don't go ahead and have massive armies, but it's strong. The simplicity of it is the power of it. It's very hard to break a stone. It's very difficult because it's strong, even though it's simple and it's not something that has an outwardly high value to it. But the value is contained within its strength. And that is the representation of Am Yisrael. And just like this boulder is not part of the image, it's from the outside, so too the kingship of HaKadosh Baruch Hu will come from the outside. It will be completely different than all of the other kingships, than all of the other things, and they will destroy the 4 kings that existed before it, and it will be a kingship that will grow and grow until future times, until it will last la'ad ur'olmei olamim, for eternity, an eternal kingship under the banner of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the dream that Daniel tells him with its interpretation. Now, what are the ramifications that emerge from the powerful dream that Daniel said? Does anybody think that Nebuchadnezzar took this dream to heart? No. Right? What are you going to say? It's yes or no?
No.
No, that's right. The answer is he did not. So what's the point of sending Nebuchadnezzar such a dream if he's not going to listen to it? The answer is for everybody else. Am Yisrael was so strengthened when they heard about Daniel and the dreams and the interpretation and the fact that although the exiles are going to be difficult and it's just starting, at that point in time it was just starting, but there's an end in sight, and that was something that rejuvenated, it motivated Am Yisrael, it gave him strength, it gave him energy to continue further and to be so proud that we have such tzaddikim like Daniel that are able to interpret dreams, and we have a nation like the Jewish people that are going to continue on and endure for thousands and thousands of years till future times, till eternity. And that is something that very much strengthened the Jewish people. As far as Nebuchadnezzar was concerned, When he heard Daniel's interpretation of the dream, what did he do? He said, "You, Daniel, are God." He wanted to make him into one of his gods. He considered him a god. He bowed down before Daniel and he commanded that they should bring sacrifices and wine poured before him. Daniel was taken aback because he knew that I'm not God. God interpreted it. I'm not God. So he quickly refuses everything that Nebuchadnezzar was doing. He said, no. Don't bring korbanot. Don't go ahead and do this. You cannot do this. This isn't me. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's doing it. And Nebuchadnezzar hears HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is the point, at least for these few moments, he gave HaKadosh Baruch Hu gratitude. He said, blessed is this amazing God that you Jews have, that is able to give you the foresight to interpret the dreams. And Nebuchadnezzar went ahead and he was so happy with this interpretation that he finally was able to kind of relax and realize what it is. First, he stopped all the deaths. He said, that's it, okay, I see. Dream was interpreted, nobody has to die from now on. Daniel, as far as you're concerned, you're second in command. Just like Yosef was brought up before the interpretation of the dream, so too Daniel was brought to the second. He was the most powerful person after Nebuchadnezzar because of his interpretation. And then he asked Daniel, what do you want? What do you think Daniel answered? Look at this amazingness, the vision, the tzaddik, like Daniel, always thinking about others. He said, please, my honorable king, raise up Hananiah, Mishael, Va'azariah. Make them very high ministers as well. Nebuchadnezzar granted that wish. Why did Daniel ask for them? Because he had hakarat tov. He recognized that I didn't do this myself. Remember in the beginning, the first thing he did was he went to Hananiah, Mishael, Va'azariah and said, we need to pray for salvation, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to save us. And Hananiah, Mishael, Va'azariah prayed just as much as Daniel prayed. And he said, how can I go and take all the glory for myself when they went and helped me just as much? And therefore he told Nebuchadnezzar, no, I can't forget what brought me to this point. And this was the help of Hananiah, Mishael, Va'azariah. Nebuchadnezzar said, that wish is granted to you. And Daniel was raised. Hananiah, Mishael, Va'azariah were also raised as well. Next week, Be'ezrat Hashem, we will continue to see what happens to Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel. Amen ve'amen.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.